Hello and welcome to Nathan's Trains and Things. Today we will be doing a video on how I'm going to repair this Lionel TMCC Southern Pacific SD40 that I purchased that is not working. A little bit of background on it. I bought it for $75 from a train store, and they said it wasn't working. And he was like, yeah, I just haven't gotten a chance to fix it yet. So I said, can I buy it anyway? And so he sold it to me for $75, and we're going to try to make it work. And if it does work, I would say it's worth, $250, $300. I've had success in the past with repairing supposedly broken locomotives, and you can really get some nice stuff for a really, really cheap price if you do it this way. So let's see what we got. Alrighty, so as we can see, the sound is working just fine. So that means it's likely not a TMCC issue, which is a good thing because that means it'll be much easier to fix. So basically this is what's going on, is when you accelerate, it tries to do something and moves a little bit, but is really struggling. You can hear the wheels spinning on the front motor. And it's really just bogging down, which means one of the motors is not functioning properly. So we're probably going to have to rebuild that rear motor, because normally you would have to flip it over and give it electricity to one set of wheels to see which set is spinning, which isn't. But in this case, I can tell that it's the front wheels just because I can hear them spinning. So we're going to have to do first an electronics test on the motor. So we'll take the shell off and give it some power, and if we put a screwdriver in there and it feels like there's a magnetic field, then it's not an electric problem, it's just a motor problem. So we're hoping it's that, but we'll see. So first things first is to take the shell off by removing the couple screws that hold it on. So to take the shell off of this SD40, you need to remove the screw that's there and the screw that's there. And you need to flip it over and remove any of these little screws that have the little tab on it that holds the frame onto the shell. Any that don't have that tab, you do not need to remove. So now the shell's off, and I did do the magnetic signature test where I put it on the track and gave it some power, and I touched the screwdriver in here, and there's definitely a magnetic signature. So it is not an electronics issue, which is very good news, because that means this is definitely going to be fixable. So it also looks like this motor's been fiddled with before, clearly, because there's a bunch of solder here that connects the wire that goes from the motor to this pickup. And so I'm not actually going to be able to get this off without unsoldering that. So I'm going to have to unsolder this and then take out this screw and that screw to get the top of the motor off, and then we'll be able to see what we're dealing with inside. Alright, so got that off, and I just took that little pickup off too, the little clip. So it's about time to take this off, but before I do, I'm just going to go over what we're going to check. First, we're going to check the bottom of these two, which are the brushes of the motor, and then the top of the motor element where the brushes touch it, because often that's really dirty, and while it shouldn't overall hamper the motor from running completely, it would keep it from running smoothly if they're really dirty. And we'll also look at the way the worm gear attaches to the gear that's further down and that connects to the axle. So those are the first two things I usually check on these late 90s, early 2000s Lionel motors. Alright, so I've got the motor taken apart. What we're looking at here is the top of the motor is a little bit dirty, not too bad. The bottoms of the brushes are definitely dirty. These are the bottoms. And then down inside you can see this gear here is A, sloppy, and B, it's not lined up with where the worm gear sits very well, which would definitely, I think, be our biggest problem. Also, the inside of this worm gear here is a little bit sloppy. So, course of action is going to be clean the top of the motor and the brushes where they contact this with paper towel and some, what I usually use is mineral spirits, but something like that. And then I'll clean out this with similar, and then also maybe a little bit of the edge of a piece of sandpaper. Clean that out with some Q-tips and whatever, and then I'll use a flathead screwdriver to push this over so it is more centered. Okay, so I did all of that, which I just said, cleaned it up, got that gear aligned, and now one test you can do to check the freeness of a motor is just push it. And if it's really easy to push, then it's probably okay, and if it's not, then that's an issue. The other thing you can do is pick it up and see if you can turn it with your finger on the wheel. And if it turns easy like that when you're trying to roll the wheel back and forth, then the motor's definitely not seized. Before it wasn't doing that, and now, or like it wasn't turning, and now it is. So I'm thinking that it's probably fixed. All I'm gonna have to do is solder that back together, and then we'll do a track test. All right, so I've got it powered up on the track, and the shell is just sitting on it. I didn't bother to put it all the way back together yet because I don't know if it's gonna work yet. So we're just going to slowly bring it up and see what it wants to do. All right, so it's definitely gonna work because, see, what's not moving perfectly yet, and it's definitely still having trouble. But that little bit of movement means that it's just a matter of breaking the motors in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut it off and screw the top on. Then I'm going to make the outer loop of this track free, and I'm just going to run it for a minute or two to get it really starting to move, and then I'll lubricate it, and then it'll be all good to go. Okay, so it's really starting to run nice. Now all I'm going to do is drop right there and right there with a drop of 3-in-1 oil because the axles are well lubricated. I looked at them already. And then I'm just going to run it for a couple minutes. So there you have it. Just running around the outer loop on high throttle. I'll keep doing this for about 10 minutes, but stay here because the longer it runs, the faster it'll go. But yeah, so this engine is now fully fixed and fully functional. Just have to break it in so the motors run nice and smooth, and that'll be it. So overall, it was not a terribly difficult repair. I actually had a Line SD40M in the same condition, more or less, that I repaired before repairing this one. So you can look for product reviews on both the Southern Pacific SD40 and a Line SD60M in the future. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.